let's get right on into it. As ladies and gentlemen, in the top right corner of Frost from Team Liquid. Oh. The observer went a bit too soon. It's Clem, and now he's not going at all. Oh no! Our wonderful zoom in is never gonna happen. Oh, the pain. And in the bottom left-hand corner from Alpha X, it's Ragnarok. Oh my. There we go. We got the zoom in. Woo! Let's go. We are so happy about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am TitanOnFire. And this is the World Team League, week number 3. We are headed into Alpha X, currently sitting at 1-1, but had a very, very close match against Team NV. It was last week that they did end up playing that. Did manage to beat out Africa Freaks in week 1 and had a pretty damn good result there. So really hyped to see how they are doing and to see how they end up showing up here against Team Liquid, who's also not doing too bad for themselves. If I was smart, I would have looked up the actual scorelines for these teams beforehand, but I overslept and had to quickly rush down here. But I think Team Liquid right now is also sitting at 1-1. They had a pretty easy matchup in their week 2 match, but week 1 did end up losing. So yeah, both these teams right now vying to try and get into that 2-1 spot, which is pretty comfortable heading further on into the season. For those of you that don't know the WTL layup, and if you're watching this, well, you should probably know it by now. But WTL, you have 3 players fielded for each team. They will all face off in a best of 2. All matches are played, even if one team gets 2-4 wins before the other, which of course will have them win because this is a best of 7. And then you are looking at I believe it is an 8-week, no, it's more than that. It's a 10 to 11 week season, I believe, in which case you then have the top 5 teams of the 10 go on to face off in, is it 5 teams? It's not 10 teams, is it? Because you have 2. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 teams. So the top 6 to 12 teams head on to the playoffs. Sorry. I am stumbling all over my words here at the start of the cast. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and of course for the winter season of WTL, they've done some cool little things. They've mixed it up just a little bit, and they have added in a few different maps to the map pool. One of the main ones here being, of course, Frost, which we have not seen in forever, and I will mention it every single time I cast a game on this map. I love it. I love 4-player maps, and Frost especially was one of my favorites back in the day because you could see the quickest of rush games, and then you would also see 3-hour macro games. Where you had, I don't know, Snoot facing off against someone else, and it was 3.5 hours because he went Infestors and Swarm Hosts. We shouldn't see that, though, today. 3-hour games are no longer a part of the meta. Of course, that was when the clock went faster, but even then, you know, it was about an hour-and-a-half game, which you just don't see. You just do not see anymore. I think the last time I saw an hour-long game, I don't think I've seen an hour-long game in a while. The closest I think we got was Dark versus Hearthstone, actually, in WTL last season, where they played on Romanticide, got to about 40 to 50 minutes, I believe, before Dark ended up taking it. But that's the closest that we've ever gotten to an hour-long game that I have seen. Now, you do have Clem going with a fairly standard opener here. Reaper opening with double Hellion production behind it. This is just meant to poke to try and get some damage done. And actually, Ragnarok pushed a little bit far forward with his queens here, so the Hellion's going to see what damage they can get done. Knock back one of the queens, try and get on into the main. Reaper's going to stay alive. And we'll just see if there's any tech going down. Note that there isn't any. Ooh. Manages to catch that one drone. But altogether, not that much damage for how much Clem just committed there. 2 Hellions and a Reaper for a few drones. And actually, more Hellions going on in here. We didn't get a shot of it, but it has been continued Hellion production. They've been rallied across the map. So 4 do end up going down in total, which is a little bit better there for a few more Hellions. Overall, Ragnarok defending very well, and Ragnarok's ZVT has been something that I think, especially recently, has actually looked very, very good. I really haven't had too many games where I look at Ragnarok's ZVT and I say, oh, yeah, no, it's not the best. It looks pretty solid. Especially week 1, he had a very close matchup with Keen, where he played very, very well. I believe in week 2, he did end up facing off against Did he play in week 2? I don't think he did play in week 2. That was the all-pro DOS lineup from Alpha Axis. Here we go, Hellion drop on into the main base. Lings are already there, and it has to be picked on right up. Ragnarok defending a lot of this early pressure very well. Of course, Clem behind it does have a third base, but you want to at least get a few more drones than this, as only one drone goes down, and the Liberator dies. I believe it was the Liberator that got the 2 drone kills, not additional Hellions. That is my bad. But Stim on the way regardless to engineering bays, and Clem looking to just transition this into a fairly regular game off the back of this. Really not too much going on, and Ragnarok is going to match it fairly quickly with his 2 own evolution chambers. And the lair. And Ragnarok is a player that it's something that he is very comfortable with, is the Ling Bane style of play. Now, he is adding on additional gases, so it will be Spire alongside. But Ragnarok does not have any problem with getting up very early Ling Bane upgrades. Oftentimes, he actually prioritizes them quite quickly, going into +1 melee attacks and armor, and getting up centrifugal hooks. He's very, very diligent about it. And it does oftentimes help, because Ling Bane is a composition that needs to trade well. And it's a composition that, when it is split up, it does not do so well. That's where you see it start to fall apart, is when you have multi-pronged attacks across the map. And start to see the Zergs start to get, pulled a bit thinner. But with the upgrades, hopefully that will not be an issue for Ragnarok, as Clem's still just poking around trying to find vision here. Look for a drop, but Overlord was already there to scout it out. And Spire's almost going to be finishing up, as Clem is going to be finishing up on his upgrades. And right now, this game state, it's not bad for Ragnarok, defending almost everything early very, very well, but Clem, his TVZ is, at times looks like the best in the world, if not the best in the world. So right now he's really comfortable with this position, because you have Stim done, you're going to have +1/+1 fairly soon, and you're still pushing out with Marines. You have a healthy amount of barracks, and you really haven't, there hasn't been anything done to you across the map. Ragnarok has not been able to send out Ling counterattacks. He has not been really, applying any pressure to Clem until just now, but Hellions in the middle of the base to scout it out, and on the top side of the map you should see that Ling run by on the map. As yes, Observer, we will go back to that. There we go. Banelings don't get a lot of damage done. Supply depot wall already in good position. Oh, Clem loses a full medevac there. You even see the shake of the head, as he was just was not looking in the right spot, and that's a pretty big loss, because it lightens up so much pressure that could have been applied by Ragnarok, as here comes the Mutalisks and the boost straight on out. This should be another dead medevac. Clem here, not quite expecting the Mutants to be out quite yet, and Ragnarok cleans up 2 drops full of Marines. That's all of the pressure that Clem had across the map, and now you immediately see the missile turrets going down. Now, the Observer did point out earlier that there were 2 armories being built by Clem, and we'll see what he uses those for. Right now, it's only a 2nd factory on the way, and no 3rd factory. Just continued Marine production, but there you go. Drilling claws for the Widow Mines. We should see, there we go, reactor popped right down on, and yeah. We'll see if Clem actually uses 2 armories. That might just be a mistake, because right now he is pumping 10 Marines at a time. It's a lot of barracks out for Clem. And, ooh, nice Widow Mine shot. Cleans up one of the Mutalisks. But it would surprise me if he does end up using double upgrades, just because the gas right now for Clem is not quite going to be there. Now, Terran always does have a problem with having too much gas when you're going bio, especially in longer macro games. When it gets into the late game, when you start to see bases going down, you'll always see the Terran floating around 1,000 to 2,000 gas, just because it's so hard to use it. So getting double armory upgrades, especially when you're going into Thors, would not be too bad, because you can get the plating, and then you can get the attack upgrades, which are so important for those Thors when it comes down to killing Mutalisks. Because once you get +2, all it takes is 2 volleys from a Thor, so 2 Thors, to one-shot Mutalisks, and that's even with splash damage. So I would like to see that start in the production tab, but Clem not getting it just yet. Ragnarok has already started on his own 2-2, and has continued to look for these Mutalisk upgrades. They have just gotten themselves +2 flyer attacks. Or sorry, no, is that canceled? Maybe +1 finish, sorry. And the infestation pit is on the way, as Ragnarok looking for a catch here in the middle of the map. Pretty good pickup from Clem. And, I mean, so far, it's just been a very, very slow game. These Widow Mines here could be dangerous if Ragnarok's not ready. Oh, that's a great mine shot from Clem. Manages to retarget it perfectly, and the Lingbane trying to collapse on in, but the main chunk of Marines have not been dealt with. And it looks like Clem should defend this attack fairly handedly. Only 9 workers going down. Some great splits back. The Marines stay alive, and that means that the rest of Lingbane and Mutalisks cannot commit on in as... Well, that's cute, but fortunately does not end up getting that missile turret. Ragnarok continuing to be annoying. And actually might even catch that. Worker transfers, here we go, Clem. He's gonna try and seesaw this across the map. It's a bit dangerous. I mean, Ragnarok's still in such a comfortable position, sitting on 4 bases with the 5th coming up. It would be really hard right now for Clem to try and push out, especially since he lost his Thors. And those Thors, they soak up so much damage, they get the AoE onto the Mutalisks. You really do need them to make a comfortable push here against the Zerg. And so Clem's just going to have to wait this time. Going to have to bide out as much as he can, as there you go, Thor in the mineral line. Is able to deny that. Thor in the mineral line. Sounds like a Terran rock anthem that you would hear played on whatever their home planet is. I haven't played the campaign in forever, but that would be an entertaining one. Thor is in the middle field. Yeah. As here we go, Banelings rolling on in. That's a lot of Banelings, and that's a very dead planetary. You may have Widow Mines here, but Banelings. That means that Ragnarok able to clean up that 4th base. Has, of course, enough money to be able to do that and still rebuild, and that's the wonderful part of Ragnarok not taking any damage for so long and being able to stop all these attacks as soon as he did. It's just that his economy is great right now. He's sitting at 97 workers. He's healthily on 5 bases and even taking a 6 and trying to completely populate this bottom side of the map. Ragnarok has no problems right now with remaxing. Of course, he's going to have to build up minerals for a little bit because you are seeing his bank there a little bit stressed as he's working on +3/+3 upgrades and the Ultimus Cavern. It's a whole lot of money being spent for Ragnarok, or a whole lot of gas. And so you have to be so careful because that means you're not going to be able to rebuild these Banelings. You're not going to be able to rebuild the Mutalisks, especially for a little while, at least until you get more of those resources mined. Still poking around with these Mutalisks is starting to get a bit dangerous because Clem is approaching maxed out. And even that 3/3 on the way, too. It's just going to be so dangerous. Again, I would have liked to see Clem get the vehicle weapon upgrades, but at this point he's approaching a large enough number of Thors that it's not really going to matter. As there's an engagement here on the bottom side of the map. Ragnarok trying to go on in. He's going to be pulled on back as Widow Mine drop is going to be denied. And at the front, Clem not going to be able to push just yet. Doesn't have a lot of medevacs with this army right now. Just going to run by, actually getting a decent amount of damage. Does pick off a defensive tank. Gets a Marauder. It's at least some damage there for him, and you cannot push into this Widow Mine field. Oh. Ragnarok's so close. Getting snapped off here. No, my god, that's just 3 medevacs. Just in the middle of the map. Again, losses that you really don't want to sustain as Clem, even though you're at 67 workers, even though you're maxed out. You know, having to rebuild those medevacs is just not something you want to do right now because they're going to come out with less energy, especially because Clem hasn't really been pushing it out on the map too much. And you see the 1 medevac that he does have, or the 2 medevacs that he does have with this army, almost completely drained of their energy. It just means that there's not going to be a lot of healing for this army for Clem. As, oh my god, so many missteps happening here. As, again, Ragnarok losing just a few Mutalisks. Luckily, does manage to pull them back in time. Oh, that bait. Clem. So handsome with that play. And it's currently splitting up his army. He's expanded down to this bottom position. And it hasn't been contested at all by Ragnarok. So he has a very easy pathway to push on into this base. As, oh, the Baneling run by. Gets 17 workers. But on the bottom side, he is trading a base for it. As Clem splitting up his army, I mean, as perfectly as you can. And is it going to be even able to take out the 6th base as well? Ragnarok has re-expanded, of course, has his 5th re-established and a 6th on the way, but still, this is some good damage coming out from Clem. Now, Ragnarok has a lot in the bank, has a lot to work with, has been able to, I mean, effectively shut down the mining on this base now. Just losing base of his own, 14 workers going down, 10 more Mutalisks on the way, and that is almost all the gas of Ragnarok being spent. Coming on down, and you see here these trades for Ragnarok, not the best, especially with Widow Mine hits like that. Clem, just, I mean, getting the better hand of these engagements. Of course, Ragnarok still has to rebuild. I would love to see, I mean, Ultras added in. He has +3/+3 for his Ultras. He has the armor upgrades. Ooh, these Thors just stepping out a little bit too far. Ragnarok's gonna dive on in. Ragnarok might just clean up almost everything here, as Clem, again, just pushed a bit too far forward. Now, the Banelings are all down, so you can't push this any further as Ragnarok, but he has more Banelings that have been morphed in. More Mutalisks to add on top of this army's ability to fight. And that was a great collapse by our Alpha X Zerg. Again, though, this Widowmine shot could be so dangerous. Doesn't connect as well as it could have. But Clem just got a bit too lenient, pushed a bit too far forward. The Thors were caught out. They were separated from the army. And now, another big Baneling connection onto Marines. And Ragnarok might just have found enough damage to seesaw this across the map. All of the medevacs are exposed. Banelings rolling in on top of Bio. Clem's base is under siege, and there's nothing he can do to save it. That's a building CC. And the 4th lifting off. A lot of Mutalisks go down, but still, it's a remax from Ragnarok. He has so much money in the bank. Just the macro engine right now of the Zerg. Unstoppable. And Clem, 38 workers. There's not really a lot to work with here if you are the Terran, and there's more Zerg streaming across the map. Ragnarok looks like he's going to be able to take this game. And it was close at times. It was very, very close, but Ragnarok, it's a beautiful macro. Just constantly has enough to defend what Clem is throwing at him. It's just Marauders left. The Mutalisks will clean it up. GG! Ragnarok takes game number 1. I feel like I sound weird today. Oxide Winter Edition. Oh, I love this map. As in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide, it is Alpha X's Ragnarok. Look at that. We got the zoom-ins on time. And in the top right, from Team Liquid, it's Clem. And Ragnarok manages to take game number 1. Not exactly what I expected, but again, Clem had a few moments there where he looked super, super good. Had a few times where you look at it and you're like, oh, wow. Ragnarok could take this. Unfortunately, was not able to finish, or Clem can take this, but unfortunately was not able to push it in those periods where he did have an advantage. And Ragnarok's defense, just solid. Solid, solid, solid. There weren't many times where Clem would push, get damage done, and Ragnarok would not find an answer, either cleaning up the army, you know, getting some sort of damage in return. We saw the Ling run-bys and the Baneling busts on the 3rd base, especially for Clem. That got a lot of damage done, especially in that late game when Clem was focusing on the front. And then being able to clean up the army was just massive at the end there. You know, Clem was in a great position. He was maxed out. Ragnarok catches the Thors just moving too far forward, and that's a slip up from Clem. Collapses on top of it. The Bio no longer has that big meat shield, and Clem can't really kite and split it out just well enough. And it's surprising because Clem's TVZ is, I think, his best matchup, and I think at times he looks nigh unstoppable in TVZ. But recently it hasn't been as much so. You know, definitely recently, I feel like Clem's, I don't want to say Clem's form has been bad. I just feel like it's been, there's, you know, every player goes through ups and downs. I feel like Clem definitely has been doing that, where you kind of have to start to reassess how you play and look at your build orders, just kind of look at all of that, and you're trying to figure things out, especially if stuff starts not working, as we are going to be seeing the 2-1-1 opening here from Clem. This is, I mean, a build that, of course, Maru has been using a ton. It's what he got his Azus ROG victory off the back of, was these 2-1-1s. And we'll see how Clem manages to do with it. And of course, Clem, always regarded as having, you know, some of the best micro in the game. Of course, you have to put Maru up there with also having some incredible micro. But just with how well he's able to control groups of bio, feels like, actually it's not even a 2-on-1. It's a 3 barracks. There was no second guess. This is 3 racks from Clem. This is something that I haven't seen in a while against Zerg. You'll see this definitely against Protoss. You know, just every so often, this would be mixed in against Protoss, especially a few months ago. That's where you saw it a ton. But now we are going to be seeing it here against Zerg. What is this? Clem, what are you doing? That's 4 barracks. What? No, that's not allowed. That's not allowed, right? 4 racks? Okay. All right, Clem. I see what you're doing. And I'm very interested in how this will pan out. Stim and combat shields on the way. Oh my, excuse me as it is still early morning here. But what is this build from Clem? I've just never seen this. There's no add-on on the last barracks, of course. There's not enough time or money to really afford to do that. Ooh, that Ling, I don't know if it got vision of the additional Marines. The production tab will tell us, though, if that was the case. Is it another round of drones here out of Ragnarok, or is it more Queens and Lings? This is a lot of Marines, man. This is a lot of Marines. There is no factory transition behind this just yet. This is just pure 5 Marines at a time. Stim and combat shields approaching, getting done. Clem or Ragnarok goes in. Scouts 3 barracks, but does he expect the 4th? Does he expect the 4th? No, because no one expects the 4th racks. Because who builds a 4th barracks? Who builds a 4th barracks? Well, Clem does. Here we go. The push is going to come out across the map. Ling's on the way. Ragnarok has realized that it's a push. Does he realize that it's going to be so strong? Because there's workers with this. Clem, this is not just your ordinary push. This is a lot of pressure that's going to be coming out here from our Terran boy. And, well, immediately Lings and drones pulled off of the 3rd base. Never mind. Drone's not pulled just quite yet, so that's going to be a lot of drone kills as the workers are here. Clem, he's not even going to worry about killing that hatchery. He wants to try and go for the kill. He knows that he has a lot to work with here. And there's a few queens, but the wall off is not completed in time. Ragnarok, you might have misstepped. Where's your Lings? They're across the map. They're not here to defend. Ragnarok's going to try and go for a base race. And I feel like that is absolutely not what you should be doing in this case, because Clem is absolutely rolling over everything. GG. The 4 racks from Clem get the win and tie it up 1-1. Ah, look at that cheeky smile. Clem knows he got away with something there.